Lecture 3. Determination of tax rate. Number 1. Related to the commercial or industrial activity of the firm and essential for carrying out the activity. Number 2. Real and supported by documents except for costs and expenses which customarily have no supporting documents. The taxable commercial and industrial net profit is determined on the basis of the gross profit after deducting all costs and expenses needed to realize such profit. For costs and expenses that are not customarily recorded in documents, such as number 1. Domestic transportation expenses. Number 2. The cafeteria expenses as an amenity for the firm's client. Cleaning expenses. 4. Ordinary and syndicate stamps necessary for the firm's operations workflow. Ordinary maintenance expenses. Number 6. Daily, weekly, or monthly newspapers or magazines if they are necessary for the profession or activity. Note: expenses that are not customarily supported by documents, including tips, cannot exceed 7% of the total general and administrative expenses that supported by documents. Example number 1 on page 177 on your textbook. Given the following costs and expenses of a sole proprietorship for year 2018. Number 1. Costs and expenses supported by documents amounted to 6,000 livres Egyptian. Number 2. Costs and expenses incurred but not supported by documents are as follows: 800 livres Egyptian as domestic transportation expenses, 1,500 livres Egyptian cafeteria expenses as an amenity for the firm's clients, 400 livres Egyptian cleaning expenses, 900 livres Egyptian stamps necessary for the firm's operations workflow, 700 livres Egyptian ordinary maintenance expenses, 400 livres Egyptian daily newspapers that are necessary for the profession or activity. Required to calculate total deductible costs and expenses for year 2018. Answer: total not supported costs and expenses by documents. Total 4,700. The maximum amount of not supported costs and expenses by documents equals supported costs and expenses times 7%. Then 6,000 livres Egyptian times 7% amounted to 4,200 livres Egyptian. Total deductible costs and expenses for year 2018 can be calculated as follows: costs and expenses supported by documents given 6,000 livres Egyptian plus allowed costs and expenses not supported by documents calculated to be 4,200. Then total deductible costs and expenses totaled 64,200 livres Egyptian. Example 2 on page 178 on your textbook. From example 1, assume that the costs and expenses that supported by documents for the year 2018 amounted to 70,000 livres Egyptian. Required to calculate total deductible costs and expenses for year 2018. The maximum amount of not supported costs and expenses by documents equals supported costs and expenses times 7%. 70,000 livres Egyptian times 7% amounted to 4,900. As the non-supported costs and expenses total 4,700 is within the maximum allowed amount, 4,900. Then total deductible costs and expenses for year 2018 can be calculated as follows: costs and expenses supported by documents given 70,000 livres Egyptian, allowed costs and expenses not supported by documents calculated to be 4,700. Then total deductible costs and expenses total 74,700. Now back to deductible costs and expenses. The following costs and expenses are deductible. Number 1. Interest on loans used in the activity regardless of their value after deducting the non-taxable or legally exempted credit interest. Number 2. Depreciation of the firm's assets as stipulated in Article number 25 of this law. 3. Fees and taxes paid by the taxpayer or by the firm except for the tax paid by the taxpayer according to this law. Number 4. Social insurance contributions by the employers in favor of their employees and their own personal interest, which are paid to the National Authority for Social Insurance. Number 5. Amounts deducted annually by firms from their finance or profit for the account of the special saving or pension funds, provided that the amount deducted does not exceed 20% of the total salaries and wages of their employees, and provided that the fund has its own regulations or terms stipulating that the payments made by them under such a system serve as a servants or pension, and that the funds of the system are separated or independent from the firm's funds and are invested for its own account. Example 1. A sole proprietorship funded its special insurance fund of 25,000 livres Egyptian during year 2018. If you learn that total salaries and wages of its employees for year 2018 totaled 100,000 livres Egyptian, required to calculate the deductible cost for financing the insurance fund. Answer. The maximum amount that considered deductible equals total salaries and wages of employees times 20%. 100,000 livres Egyptian times 20% amounted to 20,000 livres Egyptian. Then 20,000 livres Egyptian out of 25,000 livres Egyptian is considered deductible. Example 2. From the preceding example, assume the amount used to finance the insurance fund during year 2018 amounted to 18,000 livres Egyptian, required to calculate the deductible cost for financing the insurance fund. Answer. The maximum amount that considered deductible equals total salaries and wages times 20%. Then 100,000 livres Egyptian times 20% amounted to 20,000 livres Egyptian. As the amount used to finance the insurance fund, 18,000 livres Egyptian, is within the maximum limit, then the deductible cost amounted to 18,000 livres Egyptian. Back to deductible costs and expenses. Number 6. Insurance premiums taken out by the taxpayer against his disability or death, or to provide for a sum of money or annuity, provided that the amount of the premium is not more than 3,000 livres Egyptian per year. Number 7. Donations are contributions paid to government, local authority units, and other public legal entities, whatever their value. Number 8. Donations and subsidies to Egyptian non-governmental organizations and foundations registered in accordance with the provision of their respective regulatory laws, as well as to educational institutions and hospitals subject to governmental supervising, and Egyptian scientific research institutions providing they do not exceed 10% of the taxpayer's annual net profit. These donations that granted to NGOs are considered deductible within 10% of taxable net profit. Thus, taxable net profit before deducting the donation is assumed to be 110% of taxable net profit. 9. Financial penalties and indemnities borne by the taxpayer resulting from these contractual liabilities.